Hello and welcome to a special presentation of In the Money Media. Not who Mikey P, Mike Probosi, my main man PTF here. And we got some special video content for these special wagers this weekend for California Crown. We're going to kick off PTF. They have some special 2-day doubles for the weekend. And we have Saturday and Sunday racing. These are some big Breeders' Cup preps in the California Crown weekend. 2-day doubles this weekend. The first one we'll focus on Grade 2 Eddie D stakes, and that's 6.5 on the grass on Saturday. It's race number 8 at Santa Anita, and then that coincides with the California Sprint Championship on Sunday. How do you see this? We have 15% takeout, $5 minimums on these wagers.
I love this. Very player-friendly terms, and those terms factor into my approach for these wagers. For me, these 2-day ones, they're not a place to be spready. These are a place to take a stand and press top opinions. There's going to be other pools, both on the day and in these special wagers, where you have an opportunity to spread. But for me, I'm going to try to be as surgical as possible. And in this first daily double, combining the Eddie D and the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, that means I'm just going to go ahead and single number 11, Big Invasion, likely favorite, but a live favorite to me. Got back to form in the Harvey Pack last time out. This horse has been a pet of mine for a long time, even if I did get a little tired of his act a bit earlier in this year. But I just think he's the fastest horse in the race and going to get a great setup. There are questions about the distance. He's never gone 6.5, but I think he has the right combination of speed and stamina to handle it. In some other pools, I'll want some backups, but here I'm all about Big Invasion, and I'm going to tie him to 2 runners on Sunday in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship with very similar profiles. They both have back numbers good enough to win a race like this and maybe even be divisional type players. They're both coming off a poor race and a long layoff. The 2 runners I'm talking about are number 1, Fort Bragg, and number 5, Straight No Chaser. I'm going to play Big Invasion to those 2 and hopefully be able to get the money in this pool. Any other horses you would want to throw in a bet like this?
Well, I knew you were going to be on Big Invasion. I know that's your especially last year. I know you had him in the Breeders' Cup Heading Challenge, and there's you guys are big fans of that horse. Sorry to bring that up, but I do think that the 6.5 hits this horse right between the eyes. I mean, his style to be able to sit and it plays more like a mile anyway, but his big kick is going to be awfully interesting going down the hill. So I think that he's a definite use. There's some others in here though, especially if he doesn't maybe show his best. I like a price. I've been chasing Iman a little bit. The 7 horse in here is 20-1 morning line. He's another one. Lots of 5.5 races and doesn't quite get there. Well, let's see what the 6.5 does, especially coming off the Kentucky Downs race. This horse gets to shrink up a little bit. You know he's going to be flying late. Yes, face the horses like Irish Aces, Dream Shake. Those are decent horses. Groom's All Business. You see Cogburn in this horse's line. So I do think that that's one with a big morning line. That's going to be a big price that is a use. There's some other locals you might be able to use, like the 9 Fast Buck, the 10 Noble Reflection, 12 and 30-1 on the morning line. So if you're looking at trying to get separators, those are huge prices. A lot of money I think will flow through Big Invasion here. And I agree on your horses for Sunday. You have the Baffert horse, Fort Bragg. You have Straight No Chaser. Both, I do think, legitimate graded stakes horses facing horses that are stepping up, that need to prove themselves. They've run fast enough. Now you have to deal with the layoffs, but I just think it has to be one of those 2 on Sunday. So I'm going to try to get some big prices Saturday into those 2 on Sunday, and hope they go 1-2 around the track. Moving on to the second of the special 2-day wagers, daily double for Saturday and Sunday for California Crown. And these are the big races here for the weekend. The Grade 1 California Crown Stakes. It's the old Goodwood. If you were looking at these old Breeders' Cup races from Santa Anita, well, they upped the purse. You got $1 million on the line, coinciding with the Zenyatta for Sunday. And another 2-day daily double. Again, 15% takeout, $5 minimum. I love those big minimums, PTF. How are you going to attack this double?
Yeah, I like them too. They actually help you in a subtle way, I think, by making you be a bit more decisive at times. I think they thwart some of the computer betting that you'll sometimes see when bets just get made. When the lower the minimum, the more efficient the CAWs are able to play these bets. And it actually, in a contrarian way, works against the interests of the casual player. So the high minimum, low takeout is just a great combo for players, not unlike the other one. I want to try to be a little bit surgical here. There are other pools where I'm going to be doing some spreading, but here I'm going to take a Noah's Ark approach. What do I mean by that? I'm going 2x2, my friend. And in the Cal crowd itself, in this pool, I'm going to be master of the obvious, I'm afraid. I think the two Bafferts kind of have an opportunity to slow this down on the front end and turn it into a bit of a match race. That's number 3, National Treasure, and number 5, Muth. National Treasure was so bad in the Whitney, and Jock was Pratt actually in another video. I said John Velasquez. Oops. Flavian Pratt said after the race the horse was just absolutely empty. But boy, if he gets back to his good races on pace figures, could be Loose and Lonely on the lead. Very obvious A-level contender to me. But Muth to me is a horse on the rise. I didn't think he looked awesome in the shared belief, but I think that was also a starting point. I think he can step up off that late season 3-year-old. If he has improved, if he was really short for that last run and has now improved and can step up on the figures he was running the spring, second off the layoff, they might all be running for second, including National Treasure, unless he's on his absolute peak form. I'll use those two. I'll hit Muth an extra time because I do prefer him of the two Baffert runners in this spot. And then in Sunday's Zenyatta, the main one I want is number 5, Desert Dawn. I will play a smaller backup to the 2 Flying Connection. But number 5, Desert Dawn, just a cool mare I've always liked. Hard trying, Arizona bred, massive class release here with Adair Manor having retired and Scylla not in the entries. Seemed like ground loss really mattered on Pack Classic Day. They really played to speed. This one was far back and wide. Looking at a pace map here, this could be a situation where this usual closer is invited into the race a little bit earlier than usual. I think it's a great situation. Second off the layoff. She's improved massively in a couple of the other times she was second off the layoff. She does that here. Desert Dawn going to take an awful lot of beating. Flying Collection did it again. Flying Connection has her on the form book and is one drawn inside. I will use as a little backup, but I will have multiple times with Desert Dawn in this spot. So we're going to play sort of weighted 2x2 doubles here in this second of the two-day bets, doubles we're talking about in this segment. What did you think?
I like your approach. I'm going to just do it a little backwards here since you mentioned Desert Dawn. I do like her here a lot. I do think it's going to be her day, and she gets the right bunch here, I think. Definitely has been knocking at the door in these Grade 1 races recently. I do think she's the main player. You get Rispoli, second off the bench. Supposed to beat these horses. Now, just doesn't win very much. 3 for 22 lifetime, but if you look, has faced Idiomatic, has faced Adair Manor several times. Sweet S Teco came out here and blasted, a field back in March. So she needs the right trip, but I do think she's fast enough. If I were to back up, I might try a horse that's a little stranger. The one Alpha Bella comes in now, was with Pletcher, now goes to Sadler, has plenty of numbers on the grass that fit versus these. Well, if you look back to this horse's last dirt start, it was August 10th at Saratoga, rained off, that was last year, rained off the grass, galloped by 22 lengths. Now, beat one horse in that race, but certainly handled the dirt. I would use those two in the second half of that double. Now, as far as the Saturday race, that big California Crown, surprise, no Senor Buscador. I mean, that's your boy. I don't know why you didn't use that horse in this race. Agree on National Treasure. I do think that one is very live in this race. I mean, his A race beats these horses. You look back to the Met Mile, his Pegasus was a monster race, and I'm not sure that the Saudi race really did him any favors, but I do think that his best getting back home can beat these horses. If I were going to back up in this one, I would use the 2 Sub Sanador. It's Mandela. This horse fits versus these horses. Look back to the big cap in March. This horse was ahead from beating Newgate there, went on the front the entire way. Then shipped recently to Monmouth and was off the pace and was able to win. Now, that was not as good a field as this, but I do like the versatility. I like the fact that they shipped the horse, so he must be in decent form, and then they show up in this spot. If anybody's going to beat the Baffert horses, I do think it's Mandela and the 2 Sub Sanador. So I do think National Treasure is definitely a worthy favorite. I'm going to be against Muth here. I think he needs to prove it to me. Now, he could take that step forward, but I don't know. He's going to take a lot more money than I want. So I would say National Treasure, a little Sub Sanador, and then use Desert Dawn heavy on day 2, and maybe just for a buck or two, Alpha Bella. Moving on to the 2-day pick six that they are offering here on Cow Crown weekend. And it matches up the last four races on Saturday and the two graded stakes on Sunday. PTF dollar pick six, $1 minimum, 15% takeout in that pick six for the 2-day wagers. How are you going to approach this?
I'm going to use this basically like a killer bet as a way to really get paid if I'm right about everything over the 2 days. It will not be a big part of my overall wagering portfolio. Matt Miller, in his great new book, A Better Way of Thinking, which you can find over at abetterwayofthinking.com, talks about the risk pyramid, where your sort of most conservative bets are at the bottom, win bets, daily doubles, things like that. That's the bottom of the pyramid. And then as you go up to the top, you have some bets like this that are high risk, high reward. Yeah, I'm taking this 2-day pick six as the very top of my risk pyramid. I have a ticket to show you. I'm just gonna, for purposes of this, I'm taking a caveman approach. If I were going to make this one of my bigger bets, I would have many tickets and be doing it very, very differently. But for this video, we're just going to go through what happens if I'm exactly right. We'll start with the John Henry. I really like number 3, Devin Propos, this French bred, 2 from 3 since making the North American debut. Distance, not an issue for this one. Going to get a good attacking trip for this powerhouse barn. I think he can handle the step up in grade. Also love Gold Phoenix. This race has been his white whale. Tricky trips the last couple of years, but he's been so dominant in this division. Going to try to lock this up with 3 and the 9. Moving on to the Eddie D. We talked about this race in other videos. Short story here, I'm singling Big Invasion in the pick 6. Moving on to the Cal Crown, which we also talked about. I'll use both the Baffert runners, National Treasure and Muth. In another video, you asked me why no Senor Buscador. You know the undying love I have for him. I just don't think it's going to be a great pace scenario here for Buscador. I do think Buscador is going to be a really interesting underneath type horse to come flying, not just in this spot, but maybe even in the Breeders' Cup Classic itself at a very, very big price. Very interesting horse down the line, giving me some Gunnevera vibes is Senor Buscador, but not on top, not in the pick 6. Pick 6, I want it 3-5. Moving on to the City of Hope. I really like Trickery in this spot. The 6 runner, progressive 3-year-old, getting better all the time. I really think this horse is going to get a great trip on buyers, not as fast as Johannes, but my questions about that one, which I'll get to, and this one's improving profile. I think he can bridge the gap and get the W. No trickery required. Johannes, very obvious, heavy favorite in the spot, but imperious in victory at similar levels and should be able to get a good trip. What's my issue? My issue is that as much of an edge as this horse has on the buyers, on some other speed figure things I look at, including time form, the gap just isn't as big as the buyer's figures suggest. So a clear A, but for that reason, not my top pick. And gosh, if that morning line 8-1 on Trickery is even close to right, Trickery might be one of my bets of the weekend in the City of Hope, race number 10 on Saturday. We talked about the other races in other videos. So for me, in the Zenyatta, in this spot, going to really take a stand with number 5. And that's Desert Dawn. Really like Desert Dawn here. And then moving on to the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, I will use those same 2 runners we talked about in other videos, other parts of this video, depending on how you're consuming it. The 1 and the 5 for me there. I'll pop up this ticket onto the screen so you can see it. But really curious to see if you like my singles, if you think that I'm on the right track with this one, and of course interested to hear who you bring in as well. But there you have it, just $16 for $1 to play all those A's. Probably will come back and play it an extra time with Muth as well, because I do prefer that one, and probably an extra time with Devin Propos as well. But yeah, there you have it, just $16 for my all A line. How do you see this 2-day pick 6? And I actually know the answer because I have your ticket to show right here, but why don't you talk us through some of the decisions you made?
Yeah, a little different here. I do think Balnikov needs to be used. Now, he's the only horse that's in line for that big bonus that First is offering to win these 3 big turf races. Well, he won the dinner party, albeit in a bog at Pimlico in May. That was a really nice race there. And for me, I thought that his last 2 races were very sharp leading up to this spot. I mean, there's $2.5 million bonus for this horse that's alive right now. Now, and you get Pratt also. I just think he's very interesting, and I do not want him off tickets. I think he needs to be used here. I like like the way Rock Emperor raced last time in that Del Mar handicap. I just thought he made an early move and was succumb to the closers. That he hasn't won in a couple years. He's 10-1 morning line, but you get Rispoli here. I think that one's interesting. And then Dicey Mocher is another one that's racing well out here. So I'll use that one. We talked about the Eddie D. I agree on Big Invasion. I think that one's a definite use, but Emon's 20-1 morning line and finally gets 6.5. Stone closer needs help, but I want him on the ticket. Cal Crown, we talked about that one also. Gimme National Treasure. I think he bounces back. His best is the best in this race. Subsanador, I think, is the backup in there for me. It's Mandela. He's a Baffert killer whenever he has the right horse. City of Hope, I think, is a very interesting race, but you mentioned Johannes, the fact that he's, maybe not quite a standout on numbers, but if you watch his races visually, he's not to the end of the tank. And I'm not huge on California turf horses, but I really like this horse. I think that he's better than all these horses, and they're not to the bottom of him yet. He would be a California horse I might be interested in the Breeders' Cup. That's how good I think he is this year. So give me Johannes by himself there in the City of Hope. Going to the Sunday, Agree on Desert Dawn, I think, is a must use. I'll just try the one in there also as a deep backup. Probably going to be a price there in a race that really just lacks a lot of high end, I think, talent. So that's pretty wide open. And then to finish up here on Sunday, give me in that sprint championship, Fort Bragg returning for Baffert. Tons of talent, very speedy. Bombed in the Malibu, but I think has a big chance here. Just better than these horses stepping up. And then Straight No Chaser. If you remember back last year at Pimlico, that Maryland Splint just ran a hole in the wind in that spot. So I think he needs to be used. His speed is very dangerous if he's back to himself. 1-5 to finish that pick six. It's $48. I do spread out a little there on a caveman ticket, but not crazy expensive. Lots of big prices in there. Lean heavily on Johannes, though. I really don't think that horse gets beat this weekend. Another one of the 2-day wagers being offered for this Cow Crown weekend. 2-day pick four, and it's a $2 minimum, 15% takeout. It involves a couple of the Cow Crown races on Saturday, the Eddie D and the Cow Crown. And on Sunday, we have the two graded races. We have the Zenyatta and the Sprint Championship PTF. I love $2 minimum for this pick four. How are we going to look at this one?
I'm going to get a little bit spreadier in here. I've been very surgical with my approach so far, especially to that Eddie D stakes. I'm going to use this pool as one of the places where I'm going to pull in a couple of more horses, alternatives to Big Invasion. We'll talk about them quickly. First piece, the 2-runner in the Eddie D. I really liked that race in the Wicker last time. And this horse has as an established figure pattern where been in the exacta all 4 attempts down the hill. I think this horse is going to get a good trip from the second flight. Potential horse for course is first piece. Would love to have him on these tickets in the pick four. Fast Buck, another one I'm interested in, was up in the Vanguard and the Green Flash. Didn't see it out there, but this is a horse, has only one on the front and may have trouble getting there. Taking the blinkers off, maybe that means this horse can get a favorable trip from a good post. Bit of an X factor. Low profile connections mean we could get an overlaid price. Give me the 2 and the 9 along with the 11 to kick off this 2-day pick four. We've talked about the Cal Crown in a bunch of other places. Give me the 3 and the 5 and the 3. I do prefer Muth to National Treasure, but I want them both in this spot. The Zenyatta, we've talked about my interest in Desert Dawn in that one. I will add another horse as well, Flying Connection. I said it correctly at this spot in the video. And then I'm going to look to close things out in the Sprint Championship, both with number 1, Fort Bragg, and number 5, Straight No Chaser. I will come back and play an extra combination with Big Invasion. So I'll do it, at the base level, $2 ticket with those horses I discussed there. That comes to 48. And then I'll come back and spend another 16 pressing Big Invasion. And then I'll come back and spend another 24 after that pressing Muth. This is a way, ticket construction get a lot more complicated than this, but even at a basic level, I like to be able to use the tickets to express my opinion. I like those horses who are going to catch money more, so I want to have them an extra time if I'm right. What do you think about this 2-day pick four?
I like it. I think these couple wide open races, couple races that maybe you can shrink down, and we talked about a few of these races in other videos, and I think Big Invasion, obviously big chance. I mean, we're waiting for this horse to get on this track, but I would use others in here. Agree on Fast Buck. I think a horse has a win over the racetrack, and that's important. I think has enough speed to be right there, and it was against it last time. I mean, Montorius came flying to win that race at Del Mar there on August 31st. You get a different distance. That horse is 12 to 1 morning line. The 10 Nova Reflections, 30 to 1 morning line. Another one that has won over this course, 3 for 6 over Santa Anita. Big price here. You start a pick four for 2 days for $2 with a 30 to 1 shot. I think you're going to get paid. So I want to use that one. I'll use Johnny Padres, the one, I think, as a big closer in this race and has a chance also. And I said that I've liked the 7 and 11 on other spots. So we'll use those spread out in leg one. I do think National Treasure is going to be tough in the Cow Crown, but I do think Subsanador is the one with the best chance to beat him. So I'll use those two in that race. If you go to Sunday, and I do think that Desert Dawn, I agree with that one. It's going to be her day, but I do think Alpha Bella could be worth a shot at a price. And just has to handle the dirt. Has proven capable on it in the past, and the distance, I think shrinking down may not hurt this one, so I'll use that one. And if you're looking for a horse to maybe add to a separate ticket, big price, it's the three. This is the Argentinian. Rosa, I think, is the name right there. This is Phil D'Amato, ships from Argentina here, won a grade one last time, and I'm going to use a ticket just as this is a C. So I'm going to key Big Invasion in that first leg, use this horse as a C type. It's only an $8 play, using my horses in the other two legs that I think are obvious. That last leg, the Sprint Championship, I think either Fort Bragg or Straight No Chaser win. Those are going to be the two on my tickets. I don't need to press there. I think I have that race locked up. You see guys say, well, I'm going to lock up that race. Well, I'm going to lock up that last leg. We're going to spread in the first race on a big ticket, and maybe, throw a C in there that if I'm right everywhere else, that horse is probably going to be 20 to 1 plus there, the Invader. Wide open race for me there. That's how I would play this pick four. Moving on to another one of the special wagers for this California Crown weekend. And we got $1 minimum, all stakes pick five for Saturday. And this is an exciting, I think, pick five ticket. It involves those last four races on the card, but we're going to add an additional race, and it's the fifth race. It's the Unzip Me. That's a 6.5 furlong 3-year-old a turf race. PTF, pick five here, $1 minimum, 15% takeout. You can get a little more spready, I think.
That was going to be my approach, my friend. I'm going to pull in a bunch of different runners in this Unzip Me stake. I do have three that I like the most, and I'm not going to talk about 6 horses, so I'll number check the ones I want as backups. But in terms of the A-level selections, I think Troopy is probably my top pick, number 11. East Coast turf form going west. How often do we talk about that? Get your bingo card out. We talk about it so often. 3 very good races on the clock this year. Listed stakes win from Laurel. That last race at Saratoga was very salty. I think this is a subtle drop in class, actually. Added ground won't be any problem given these bloodlines, and I think Tupi looks like the best of speed in this spot. 6 Zona Verde, one that I want, has some sexy bits of form, including that grade 1 placing last time, been down the hill twice and hasn't been disgraced, though not her best work necessarily. Neither trip was the easiest down the hill either, and in better form now. I think this is a major player on the cutback in distance. Another one of these East Coast shipping west turf horses is the 10 Golden Canary, coming from Woodbine, last seen winning a 7 furlong allowance in good time. This is a listed stakes winner from last year's Soaring Free. Interesting Stranger makes a ton of sense to me. Main ones are going to be 11, 10, and 6 in this spot, but I'm not going to keep it that simple. I'm going to also mix in the 1, the 7, and the 13 on some bets because I'm pretty skinny as the bet goes forward. So I feel like I can go 6 deep in this spot without costing myself too much equity. We'll pop the rest of the ticket on the screen. We cover all these other races in different videos, so I won't spend too much time belaboring them. But John Henry, you made a good case for Balnikoff. Maybe I'll, in another spot in this video, I may try to sneak that one in, but I'm mostly 3 and 9 to try to lock that one up. Eddie D, I'm going to go with Big Invasion as a single in this pool. Muth and National Treasure in the Cow Crown. Really like Trickery as an alternative to the extremely live favorite Johannes in the City of Hope to close this one out. Very curious to hear what your numbers are in this bet.
So my pick five, since this pick five does include the race with Johannes, that it's probably going to hinge on him. I just think that he is going to be very difficult to beat. So I'm going to be able to, being that he's going to be such a big favorite, I'm going to try to spread out a little in these other races. First leg, that Unzip Me, I'm agreeing on the East Coast shippers to be, I think, is a very well meant favorite here. Motion ships out. Usually, when he ships west, he ships well. He comes to win. This horse has a 6 furlong win in her life. Ran into Twirling Queen. That horse has been exceptional this year, especially in those short races out east. So I do like that one. I love Woodbine Turf horses shipping. So Golden Canary, Cassie, as hot as any trainer in the entire world right now, just winning everywhere. Last race popped an 86 buyer there. Now that was a 2 life at Woodbine, but that was on the EP Taylor. I do think that this horse is going to sit and make that one big run. You get Johnny V also on that one. So I would hinge very heavy on those two in the first leg. We talked about the other races. Balnikov, I think, is a must use. Just going for the bonus. You get Pratt, definite use for me, and a decent price. And I like Rock Emperor probably more than most. 10-1 morning line, I think, needs to be used. Some of the other races, again, we talked about. I'm going to spread a little in this ticket in that Eddie D. I think you can spread out there with some of the favorites that I'm using. So I like Big Invasion. I like Iman. I will use the 9 and 10 also, Fast Buck and Noble Reflection. And then in the Cow Crown, I'm just going to stick with my two, Substandador, National Treasure. Maybe heavy National Treasure there because, he's going to be a favorite. So if you're going to try to get extra combinations, I would weight that one also. So, but really nice pick five here on Saturday. Love that dollar minimum and the low takeout. One more wager to talk about for Saturday, Cow Crown Saturday, and it's the Coast to Coast Pick Five. And they bringing this back here. Races from Gulfstream and Santa Anita, $1 minimum, retail only, very important. Couple races at Gulfstream Park, 3 races from Santa Anita. All turf for this Coast to Coast Pick 5 PTF. And we're going to start out at Gulfstream with a pretty interesting stake.
I love this race. I'm so glad the Coast to Coast is back. Sounds like they're going to keep it rocking and rolling anytime when Santa Anita and Gulfstream are both operating, which is just great news for horse players. So very happy to plug the return of the Coast to Coast. And I will definitely be taking a bit of a swing in this bet. We'll start off with Gulfstream's 9th race, where I was going to use 2. I was going to take the classic Jonathan Kinchin approach to this turf sprint, where I want the best speed and the horse with the fastest numbers overall. We'll start with number 3, Lazio. Pains me to say this as a Roma supporter, but we'll start with Lazio. This horse looked like the potential best speed to me. Simply an easier group than what he faced last time at Colonial. I think there's a chance this horse could bounce back with a nice forward effort. The 4, Ghostly Rose, comes out of that same Colonial race as the top one. This horse finished up a lot better than the top one there. Gonna have a lot of work to do late on. Might have to pass them all. But I think on the body of work, this horse needs to be used and might just be faster than these. So the 3 and 4 to start things out. I'll flash the ticket up here in a minute. But race number 11 at Gulfstream is our next port of call. And even though this is a turf route, a little bit similar. I'm going to want 1 speed and 1 closer. The 6, Catch a Tiger, one that'll be on tickets. I think this horse, like the other one I'm going to use, getting back to the better surface today. I also thought it was a strange ride last time. This horse was rated. This time I think they're going to use Catch a Tiger's weapon, and Catch a Tiger might take some catching, as I think they'll send to the lead, and maybe this one can be seen to better effect. I am also going to use number 7, Reminder, as I mentioned, getting back onto the turf. This horse fits off the run off the bench 2 back today, could be set for a peak effort in the 3rd start off the bench. If the top pick doesn't win, maybe at the very least he can set it up for this horse, who I think could prove the best closer. Now we'll move on to races we've talked about a lot in other videos, but I'm going to mix things up a little bit in my discussion of this John Henry Stakes by adding a couple of more runners. One is Balnikov, I'll add in the mix here, who you've made passionate cases for, going for that big bonus in this spot. Flavian Pratt aboard. That's a horse I definitely want. I've talked a lot in the other videos about Gold Phoenix, a horse who this is like the lone race on the resume that the horse doesn't seem to have been so dominant in Southern California over the last couple of years. So I definitely want to have some of that one. And then the stablemate of that runner as well, Devon Propo, a horse that I just think looks very well suited for this spot and could make a pretty big impact. And I will also throw in one wild long shot. I'll make the case in the written content that we have up for this if you check the In the Money website. But I did want a little bit of the number 7. This seemed like maybe the right pool to toss this one into the mix in this spot. And then from there, it gets very simple. We go back to singling Big Invasion and try to close things out with Johannes and Trickery. Very curious to get your thoughts about this coast to coast pick 5.
I love the all turf for this coast to coast, and especially the Gulfstream, I thought came up pretty tough. I agree with you though in leg 1. I think the 3 and the 4 both very live coming out of that Roses Stakes. If you watch that race, Governor Sam just dominated that race from start to finish, and that horse was a 2-time stakes winner so far. Both were, had tough trips in there, so I think a little bit better trip. The class edge that those two have, I like 3 and 4 in leg 1. I think they're must uses. You go to the 11th race, I'm a little different. I do agree on the 7 reminder. This horse was racing in open races at 2. Was second in the pulpit to a horse named Noted. That horse got very good at the end of last year. Came back and finished second on the grass on August 4th here at Gulfstream of facing state breds, and then ended up on the synth on August 31st. I'll just toss that race out. I do think 7 is a must use there in leg number 2. I'll try the 3 also, the man up front. 10-1 morning line, speedy. I think a little bit of a drop here. Has been racing against open allowance types with 75 tags and a couple listed stakes there for this one. I think is speedy, is dropping, and could control this race. So give me the 3 and the 7 in those 2 Gulfstream legs. Now, if you're looking at Saturday, again, we've talked about these races. Give me Balnikov, give me Rock Epper at a price. Give me Dicey Mochera. I do think that one, if you wanted to wait a ticket, Dicey Mochera could be one to wait there in that John Henry. Just with the speed, could get the jump on all the closers in that race. Definitely heavy on that one for me. In the Eddie D, another wide open race. You could spread here, but I'm going to do 2 closers, Big Invasion and Iman. Iman, the big price of the 2. I'm just very curious to see what happens. This horse getting to 6.5. So could be interesting there. And then to finish, Johannes, I think, is the most obvious horse of the weekend. Now, he's chalky, but I'm not going to try to waste equity beating a horse that I don't think really should get beaten in this race. He's been very visually impressive this year. Really, nothing has been close to him out here, and I don't see anything in this race that looks any different than what he's been facing. Now, Trickery is interesting. I do like your pick of that horse in here, but it's a 3-year-old stepping up. Just might need a little bit more to beat these older types, especially a horse like Johannes. So I think excellent coast to coast pick 5 for Saturday. Jump in again, retail only, $1 minimum. Well, PTF, we've gone over a lot of things in this video. If you stuck with us through the main video on YouTube, you get our thoughts for all these special wagers for Cow Crown. I know you're out there big time getting involved this weekend.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be firing away. This is really good racing. It's an event I want to support. These kind of player-friendly wagers are something we as horse players should be looking to support. You vote with your dollar in this capitalist life. We can tell these racetrack executives we like what we've seen by getting involved. Really excited to be taking shots and trying to use these pools to leverage against each other. And we haven't even talked about some of the other, just the regular wagering menu and all the opportunities there. A runner like that 7 runner I was mentioning, Big Blue Line, before, that's a horse, I'll certainly be able to make plenty of money just betting to win at the 20-1. That one's going to be. So just because we're talking about these more exotic wagers and our approaches to them, don't overlook the regular wagering menu at Santa Anita on Saturday. It's going to be a ton of fun, and want to let folks know, we haven't gone high level into the handicapping piece on these videos. That's because we've got that covered in other shows. If you subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel, you'll be able to see a variety of videos covering these races, including with the NBC team, including Randy and Jerry and Nick and Brittany. We have JK over there, and then written content as well. There's going to be a pretty link in themoneypodcast.com/Cal Crown is going to get you to the full wagering menu, so there's no confusion about which races are in which bets. And we're going to hyperlink out to horse by horse written content by yours truly for all the races as well. Hopefully that'll help you out. But hey, you've heard what we think. We want to hear what you think. Drop us your thoughts in the comments on this YouTube video. We'd love to hear what your approach is going to be to this great day of racing, the California Crown.